Hello class, we're going to go ahead and look at a few problems that are related to chapter 14. The first problem is brief exercise 14.2. Let's go ahead and look at it. So this is for Swarton Corporation. They issued 600 shares of no par common stock. Prepare the journal entry as if the stock has no stated value. And then the second thing we want to do is pretend that the stock has a stated value of $2 per share. Let's see how these journal entries would differ. So first we're going to focus on part A. There's no stated value. So everything goes in the common stock account. So the amount of cash we receive from issuing the stock is $8,200, and then there's no par value or no stated value. So we just put everything in the common stock account. The difference between that and part B is that in part B there's a stated value of $2 per share. So the $2 per share is what goes in the common stock, a total of $1,200. Everything else, the remainder of the money that would make up the $8,200, will need to go into another account that's tied to common stock called paid-in capital in excess of stated value. And that way the debits equal the credits. Both the common stock and the paid-in capital in excess of stated value accounts are equity accounts. And the total adds up to the amount of cash received, and this results in the assets equaling liabilities plus stockholders' equity. In brief exercise 14.4, we have another corporation, Ravenette Corporation, and they issued shares of both common stock and of preferred stock. Now here's the catch. They didn't issue them separately. They issued them as a lump sum. And so what we need to do is we need to determine how much of the lump sum goes into the common stock and how much goes into preferred stock. The total lump sum they got was $13,500. Now they give us the market price for both the common and the preferred stock, along with the par value for each. So if we focus in on this middle part here, we'll see the problem. The market price, $20 and $90, $20 per share for the common, and the market price is $9 per share for the preferred, would add up to $15,000. But remember, we only got $13,500. So the first thing you do is you put the $13,500 in the cash account because you know you got that. And now we need to split it up between the two. So what we're going to do is just allocate it based on the market value of each of the types of shares. Since 6,000 of the market value is common, we're going to do 6,000 of the 15,000, and then we're going to get a percentage, and then we multiply that by the 13,500. Then we'll do the same for the 9,000, and we'll do 9,000 divided by 15,000, get a percentage, and multiply that by the 13,500. So that means that of the 13,500, 5,400 will go to common, and 8,100 will go to preferred. So the first thing you do, we're going to do preferred first, is put the par value in. Don't worry about the total 8,100, just put the par value in of 5,000. Then the rest of it, so remember it's 8,100, so whatever's left will go into the paid-in capital in excess of par for preferred stock. So since it's a total of 8,100, we put 5,000 in the par value area for the preferred stock, and the rest goes in to the paid-in capital in excess of par. The common stock has a par value of $10 per share, so that means 3,000, and the total amount that was allocated to common stock is 5,400. So the remaining 2,400 goes into paid-in capital in excess of par for common stock. So it's basically just allocating the lump sum to both types of stock based off of the market value. Our final problem that we're going to look at today is the one that has the most complications. Now, part A and B are not very complicated, but part C is where we get a little bit more complicated. Basically, what we have is a company that has both preferred stock and common stock. Now, the preferred stock is originally in part A non-cumulative and non-participating. So the first thing we need to do is understand what cumulative means and participating means. So cumulative means that if the preferred stock does not get dividends one year, then it's going to accumulate and they're going to get it later when the company does have the money to pay dividends. So if they miss a year, then the next year they get 2 years worth of dividends. If they miss 2 years, then the next year they get 3 years worth of dividends. If they miss 10 years, then they get all 10 years of dividends accumulated whenever the company finally does have enough money. That's what cumulative means. If it's non-cumulative, that means that if they don't have the money for the dividends, the stockholders just miss out. If it's participating, then that means that they don't get to participate in extra dividends, and we'll see what that means in a second. Anything beyond the preferred stock's percentage, which in this case they get an 8% preferred stock dividend, anything that's left over after the 8% is given to the preferred stockholders is going to go all to the common stockholders unless the preferred stockholders can participate in the extra. And so since it's non-participating, then we don't have to worry about that. Since it's non-cumulative, we just figure out how much dividend the preferred stockholders get. So the total amount of dividend that's being given is $90,000. The company missed 2 years, but it's non-cumulative, so we don't worry about that. We just look at how much they're going to get this for this 1 year. And since it's 8%, you could do 8% times the par value, that's $8, and that's 2,000 shares. So that means that the preferred stockholders get $16,000 a year. They missed 2 years before, but it doesn't matter because it's non-cumulative. All the rest of the $90,000 goes to the common stockholders. If it was participative, that means that the common stockholders would have to share that money with the preferred stockholders, but it's not participating. Okay, so now let's look at what if it is cumulative but non-participating. So it's cumulative, so that means that they missed 2 years before, so that's $16,000 a year. So $16,000 for 1 year they missed, $16,000 for the second year they missed, and then $16,000 for the third year. So it's $48,000, and then of the $90,000, the rest goes to common stockholders. The common stockholders don't have to share because it's not a participating stock. In Part C, it's both cumulative and participating. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated to calculate, but it's not that bad. First thing, figure out the dividends in arrears for the cumulative part. So they missed 2 years, so that's $32,000. Then figure out the current year. The current year is $16,000. So all said and done, that's $48,000 worth of dividends that's going to preferred stockholders because they're cumulative. So what do we do about the participating part? Well, first of all, to make things fair, we need to pretend like the common stockholders or preferred stockholders so that they get a fair share at their amount of the remaining $42,000. So the total amount that was given was $90,000, but because of the cumulative impact, $48,000 was already given to the preferred stockholders. That left $42,000 remaining. So of the $42,000, we're going to treat the common stockholders as if they're preferred stockholders and give them 8% of the par value of the common stock times 5,000 shares of common stock. So that makes everything fair. That's like everybody's being treated the same, getting the 8% amount. And so of the $42,000 that's left over, $20,000 is going to go to the common stockholders. So that leaves $22,000 that we need to split up between preferred and common stockholders. Remember, the total dividend that was given was $90,000. $48,000 went to preferred stockholders, $20,000 went to the common stockholders to get them on equal footing as the preferred stockholders. Now we got $22,000 left, and we need to spread that out, allocate it between the two. We're going to do that based on the par value. So here's how it's going to look, and we're going to walk through this. We're going to end up splitting up that $22,000, $9,788 to the preferred stockholders and $12,222 to the common stockholders. How? Well, take the par value of each of the types of stock. So the 2,000 shares of preferred stock at $100 par value, 5,000 shares of common stock at $50 par value gives us a total par value for both shares of $450,000. We're going to try to divvy this up this $22,000, so the percentage of $22,000 to $450 ends up being 4.89% or 0.0489. If you take that 0.0489 and multiply it by the preferred stock par value of $200,000, you get the 9,788. If you do the same thing for the common stockholder, you get 12,222. And those two add up to give you the 22,000. And so altogether, that's the 9,788 plus the dividends to the preferred stockholders in arrears, plus the current year dividends. It's 57,778 is going to go to the preferred stockholders. And then the common stockholders, we initially give them their amount that they're due to treat them the same as preferred stockholders, plus their share of the extra amount. And total, they get 32,222. When you add those two up, you get 90,000, and that's how you would split it up between the two. This method of allocating between the two, I don't really like it. In my opinion, the way I always did it, I think is a little bit more straightforward. I went over the first method because that's how they kind of show you in the book. But what I would do is just take the 200,000 and see how much of a percentage that is of the total 450. That gives you a percentage, and then you multiply that by the 22,000 and you get 9,778. You take the 250 out of 450, that gives you a percentage, and multiply that by 22,000. Now that gives you the 12,222. In my opinion, it's just a more straightforward way of doing it, and you get the same answer. So I just wanted to show you that in addition to the way they show you in the book. Well, those are the problems we're going to cover in this video. I hope you found it useful, and please let me know if you have a question.